I stared at my phone screen, hands trembling as I read the text from the woman who hadn't spoken to me in 8 years. Family Christmas party at 7:30 p.m. We have something important to discuss. My mother's words felt like ice water in my veins. 8 years of complete silence. Not a single birthday call, graduation congratulation, or even acknowledgement that I existed. But 3 days after Forbes published my cover story about building a $100 million AI company, suddenly I was family again. I knew exactly what they wanted. The December rain pelted against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my San Francisco penthouse office as I clutched my phone, rereading that message. 8 years. 8 entire years since my parents had declared me dead to them, and now this. The irony wasn't lost on me as I sat in a space that cost more per month than most people's annual salaries, surrounded by awards and accolades they'd never witnessed me receive. I closed my eyes and let my mind drift back to that devastating spring day when I was 24. Fresh out of UC Berkeley with my computer science degree, I'd been sitting in our Connecticut family mansion's formal dining room, the same room where we'd shared countless holiday meals. The mahogany table gleamed under the crystal chandelier as I faced my parents across plates of untouched roast beef. Law school starts in September. Catherine. My father, Robert, had said, adjusting his expensive silk tie. He'd always been the picture of conservative success in his 3-piece banking suits, graying temples, perfectly styled, every gesture calculated for maximum authority. Harvard accepted you. This tech nonsense needs to end. My mother, Linda, sat beside him, her blonde hair in its usual perfect chignon diamond tennis bracelet, catching the light as she dabbed her lips with a linen napkin. She'd built her entire identity around being the ideal banker's wife, hosting charity galas and country club events, never working a day outside our home. I'm not going to law school. I'd said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm moving to Silicon Valley. I've been accepted into a startup accelerator program. The silence that followed was deafening. My younger brother Timothy, then 19 and home from Yale, stopped chewing mid-bite. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked loudly as my parents exchanged glances that could freeze hellfire. Absolutely not. Robert's voice dropped to the controlled tone he used when closing difficult business deals. Our family has a reputation to maintain. Your grandfather built our real estate empire so his grandchildren could have respectable careers, not so they could chase pipe dreams in California. It's not a pipe dream, Dad. I've developed artificial intelligence software that can revolutionize how small businesses handle customer service. This could change everything. Linda finally spoke, her voice dripping with the condescension she reserved for things beneath her social standing. Computers, Catherine. Really? What will the Westmores think? Or the Harringtons? I cannot have my daughter working with machines instead of pursuing a dignified profession. I'd spent months preparing for this conversation, knowing their reaction would be severe, but I underestimated their cruelty. When I refused to budge, Robert delivered the ultimatum that would haunt me for years. Choose wisely, Catherine. Law school and your family, or Silicon Valley and nothing. If you walk out that door to chase this fantasy, you're no longer our daughter. I looked at Timothy, hoping for support from the brother who'd once been my closest confidant. He avoided my gaze, staring at his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. My heart shattered as I realized he wouldn't defend me. Then I guess I'm no longer your daughter, I whispered, standing from the table. The move to California nearly broke me. With just $2,000 in savings and a single suitcase, I rented a studio apartment in the worst neighborhood I could find. The space was smaller than my childhood walk-in closet, with paper-thin walls and a heater that worked maybe half the time. I survived on ramen noodles and instant coffee, coding 18 hours a day while working part-time at a neighborhood cafe to pay rent. Those first months were the loneliest of my life. Every time my phone rang, I hoped it might be my parents calling to apologize, to say they'd made a terrible mistake. The calls never came. Instead, I poured my heartbreak into building my AI customer service platform, treating each line of code as armor against the pain of abandonment. The breakthrough came when I met Sarah Martinez at a female entrepreneurs meetup in a cramped community center basement. Sarah was brilliant, a Stanford graduate with expertise in machine learning, who'd been struggling to find a company that valued her contributions. We bonded over terrible coffee and shared experiences of fighting for recognition in male-dominated tech spaces. "Your platform is incredible," Sarah had said, reviewing my prototype on her laptop. "But you need a partner who understands the technical architecture, and you need someone who believes in this as much as you do." Sarah became my first real friend in California and eventually my business partner. Together, we refined the software and landed our first client, a regional restaurant chain with 50 locations that needed streamlined customer communication. The $5,000 contract felt like winning the lottery. That first year taught me resilience I never knew I possessed. I learned to network with venture capitalists, to pitch my ideas with confidence, to build a business from nothing but determination and code. But success couldn't fill the void left by family rejection. The worst part came 2 years later at a UC Berkeley alumni event I'd forced myself to attend. My cousin Amanda, who I'd grown up with like a sister, spotted me across the crowded ballroom. Her face went white as she approached. "Kate, but you're supposed to be dead." The words hit like a physical blow. "What are you talking about?" "Your parents told everyone you died in a car accident. There was even a memorial service. I mourned you, Kate. We all did." Standing in that hotel ballroom, surrounded by successful alumni networking and laughing, I realized the full extent of my parents' cruelty. They hadn't just disowned me. They'd erased me completely, creating an elaborate fiction to avoid the embarrassment of having an entrepreneurial daughter. That night, I made a decision that would fuel my success for years to come. I wouldn't just build a successful company. I would build an empire so magnificent, so undeniably impressive, that their lies would crumble under the weight of my achievements. They wanted me dead. I'd show them what resurrection looked like. The next 2 years became a blur of calculated growth and strategic victories. Sarah and I moved our operation from my cramped apartment to a proper office space in Soma, a converted warehouse with exposed brick walls and enough room for the team we planned to build. The morning I signed our first lease, I stood in the empty space and pictured rows of desks filled with brilliant minds working to revolutionize artificial intelligence. Our AI platform evolved beyond simple customer service into something revolutionary. We developed predictive analytics that could anticipate customer needs before they even contacted businesses. The technology learned from every interaction, becoming smarter and more intuitive with each conversation it processed. Landing that regional restaurant chain led to bigger opportunities. Word spread through business networks about our platform's ability to increase customer satisfaction while reducing operational costs. Soon we were fielding calls from hotel chains, retail companies, and even financial services firms looking to modernize their customer engagement strategies. I hired James McKinney as our marketing director, a former Google executive who understood how to scale tech companies. James brought energy and creativity that complemented Sarah's technical brilliance perfectly. Then came Patricia Williams, our sales manager, whose background in enterprise software sales helped us navigate complex corporate deals. "Kate, you've built something special here," Patricia said during one of our weekly strategy meetings, spreading quarterly reports across our conference table. "But we need to think bigger. These Fortune 500 companies aren't just buying software, they're buying transformation." She was right. Our client roster grew from small businesses to major corporations, and our revenue jumped from $5,000 to $500,000 annually. Each new contract validated my decision to choose entrepreneurship over my parents' narrow vision of success. The work consumed me completely. I arrived at the office before sunrise and left after midnight, driven by a combination of passion for innovation and the need to prove myself worthy of the family that had discarded me. Sarah often found me sleeping on the office couch, surrounded by printouts of code and market research. "You're going to burn out," she warned one evening, finding me debugging our latest algorithm at 2 a.m. Success doesn't require martyrdom. But I couldn't slow down. Every milestone felt like evidence I'd been right to choose this path. When we hired our 10th employee, when we signed our 50th client, when we moved to larger office space overlooking the bay, each achievement echoed my parents' words. "You're no longer our daughter." Good, I thought. Their daughter never could have built this. Romance seemed impossible when work demanded everything I had. I went on occasional dates, but potential partners couldn't understand why I checked emails during dinners or took calls during movies. The few relationships that developed beyond first meetings eventually withered under the weight of my obsession with proving myself. Then I met Monica Rodriguez at a tech industry conference in Las Vegas. She was presenting a workshop on digital marketing strategies for startups, and her presentation was brilliant. Monica understood the intersection of technology and human psychology in ways that impressed even our sophisticated team. "Your platform has incredible potential," she said over coffee after her presentation, "but you're thinking too small about market positioning. Customer service is just the entry point. You're really selling business intelligence." Monica saw possibilities I hadn't considered. She had an MBA from Northwestern and experience launching consumer products for Fortune 100 companies. More importantly, she understood the emotional toll of building something from nothing. Her own consulting firm had grown from freelance projects to corporate contracts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Our first date lasted 8 hours. We walked through Golden Gate Park talking about artificial intelligence business strategy and the loneliness of entrepreneurship. Monica didn't try to fix my family trauma, but she listened with genuine empathy when I described the weight of carrying rejection while building success. "Your parents made a choice that revealed their character, not yours," she said as we watched the sunset paint the San Francisco Bay in shades of gold and pink. "Their loss doesn't define your worth." Dating Monica felt different from previous relationships. She understood why I worked weekends and celebrated when we landed major contracts. When I had nightmares about family rejection, she held me without trying to convince me to reconcile with people who'd caused the wounds. Sarah noticed the change immediately. "You're happier," she observed during one of our morning strategy sessions. "Monica's good for you, but more importantly, you're finally good to yourself." The business continued expanding at breakneck pace. We developed partnerships with major software companies who integrated our AI technology into their existing platforms. Our team grew to 25 employees, then 35 each, hired carefully vetted for both technical skills and cultural fit. Competition intensified as larger companies noticed our success. IBM and Oracle both approached us about potential acquisitions offers that would have made Sarah and me millionaires overnight. But selling felt like surrendering before reaching our full potential. "We're just getting started," I told the Oracle representative during their final pitch meeting. "Our technology is going to transform how businesses understand their customers. I'm not ready to hand that vision to someone else." The stress of rapid growth while fighting off corporate predators began taking its toll. I developed insomnia and relied on increasing amounts of caffeine to maintain my productivity. Sarah worried about my health, and Monica organized interventions disguised as romantic weekends in Napa Valley. Our biggest crisis came during year 4 when our largest client threatened to terminate their contract due to a software bug that caused their customer service system to crash during Black Friday weekend. Millions of dollars in lost sales and a public relations nightmare that could destroy our reputation. "We have 72 hours to fix this or we're finished," Patricia announced during an emergency Sunday meeting. "Every tech blog is covering the story. Our other clients are spooked." Sarah and I worked around the clock for 3 straight days diagnosing the problem and rebuilding affected code modules. The solution required rewriting core architecture we'd spent months perfecting, but failure wasn't an option. "Got it," Sarah announced at 4 a.m. on Wednesday, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "The patch is ready, testing now." The fix worked flawlessly. Not only did we save the client relationship, but our handling of the crisis impressed other potential customers. Companies realized they could trust us to solve problems under pressure, and our reputation for reliability became a competitive advantage. But success came with unexpected complications. During year 5, Sarah received a job offer from Google that would double her salary and provide stock options worth millions. The offer forced me to confront how much my obsession with proving myself had overshadowed my responsibility to the people who'd helped build our company. "I don't want to leave," Sarah confided over lunch at our usual Vietnamese restaurant. "But I need to know this partnership is about more than your need to show your parents they were wrong." Her words stung because they contained truth. I had been using our company's success as armor against family rejection, sometimes prioritizing growth over the well-being of people who'd supported me unconditionally. "You're right," I admitted. "I've been so focused on external validation that I forgot about the people who actually matter. Stay, and I'll make you an equal partner. Full equity, equal decision-making authority. This company exists because of your brilliance, not despite it." Sarah stayed and our partnership became stronger than ever. But her near departure taught me important lessons about leadership and the difference between proving others wrong and building something meaningful. The breakthrough that would change everything came through an unexpected source, my brother Timothy. Despite our parents' ultimatum, he'd been secretly following my career through online articles and social media posts. Late one night, he sent me a LinkedIn message that shattered my understanding of our family situation. "Kate, I know you probably hate me for not defending you, but I need you to know something. Mom and Dad are in serious financial trouble. Dad's bank is under federal investigation for loan irregularities, and they've lost most of Grandpa's real estate portfolio through bad investments. They're facing bankruptcy, but they made me promise not to contact you. I'm sorry for everything. I've watched your success from afar, and I'm so proud of who you've become." Reading Timothy's message in my apartment while Monica slept beside me, I felt a complex mixture of vindication and sadness. The parents who disowned me for choosing an uncertain path were now facing the consequences of their own poor decisions. But there was no satisfaction in their suffering, only a hollow acknowledgement that their rejection had been based on fear rather than wisdom. I didn't respond to Timothy's message immediately. Instead, I focused on the work that had sustained me through years of family absence. Our company was approaching a major milestone, our 100th corporate client, an annual revenue of $10 million. The numbers represented more than financial success. They proved that the vision my parents had dismissed as fantasy was transforming how businesses operated. Years 5 through 7 brought transformation beyond anything I'd imagined when I first pitched our AI platform to skeptical investors. Our Series A funding round attracted $15 million from Wellington Ventures, one of Silicon Valley's most prestigious firms. The investment validated not just our technology, but our vision of artificial intelligence as essential business infrastructure. Walking into our new headquarters for the first time felt surreal. We'd leased an entire floor of a gleaming building in Soma, with space for 100 employees and state-of-the-art development facilities. The open floor plan buzzed with energy as engineers, data scientists, and customer success managers collaborated on projects that were reshaping entire industries. "Remember when we worked out of your studio apartment?" Sarah laughed as we toured the executive conference room with its panoramic view of San Francisco Bay. "Now we're developing AI systems for companies worth billions of dollars." Our client roster read like a Fortune 500 directory. Major retailers used our platform to predict customer behavior and personalize shopping experiences. Healthcare organizations deployed our technology to streamline patient communications and reduce administrative costs. Financial services companies relied on our algorithms to detect fraud and improve customer satisfaction. The recognition that followed felt both thrilling and overwhelming. TechCrunch featured our company in a cover story titled "The AI Revolution's Unlikely Leaders." The Wall Street Journal profiled my journey from family rejection to tech success. Entrepreneur magazine named me to their 40 under 40 list of innovative business leaders. Speaking opportunities multiplied faster than I could accept them. The invitation to keynote at CES represented a particular milestone, addressing an audience of 50,000 technology professionals about the future of artificial intelligence. Standing on that massive stage in Las Vegas, I thought about the 24-year-old woman who'd left her family's mansion with nothing but determination and a laptop. Artificial intelligence isn't about replacing human connection. I told the audience, my voice carrying across the packed auditorium. It's about enhancing our ability to understand and serve each other. Technology succeeds when it makes us more human, not less. The speech went viral across social media and technology blogs. Suddenly, interview requests poured in from major media outlets. CNBC wanted to discuss AI ethics. Forbes reached out about entrepreneurship challenges. Harvard Business School invited me to guest lecture about startup strategy. Personal wealth accumulation felt almost accidental compared to the satisfaction of building something meaningful. Our company's valuation reached $75 million, making my equity stake worth approximately $20 million. The numbers seemed abstract until I realized I could afford almost anything I'd ever wanted. Monica and I moved from our cramped San Francisco apartment to a house in Marin County, with sweeping views of the bay and mountains. The property included a home office where I could work remotely and a garden where Monica cultivated the vegetables and herbs she used in her elaborate weekend cooking experiments. "You're different now," Monica observed one evening as we shared wine on our deck while watching the sunset. "More confident, less angry." She was right. Building success had healed wounds I didn't realize were still bleeding. I no longer woke up thinking about my parents' rejection. Instead, I focused on the team we'd assembled, the problems we were solving, and the future we were creating together. The relationship with Monica deepened as we navigated success together. She understood the pressures of rapid business growth and provided perspective when decisions felt overwhelming. Her marketing consulting firm complemented our work perfectly, and several of her clients became our customers through natural synergies. But success brought unexpected complications. Timothy's secret communications continued providing updates about our parents' deteriorating situation that I hadn't requested but found impossible to ignore. Dad's bank terminated his employment. One email reported. The federal investigation found evidence of improper loan approvals. He's facing potential criminal charges. Mom's having panic attacks and won't leave the house. They're trying to sell the mansion, but the market for luxury properties in our area is terrible. Each update created conflicting emotions. Part of me felt vindicated by their financial struggles after they'd dismissed my career choice as irresponsible. But another part grieved for the family relationship that could have been different if they'd chosen support over control. The most disturbing revelation came through Timothy's girlfriend, Jessica, who'd apparently been researching my business success online. "Your parents know everything about your company," Timothy warned in a particularly concerning message. "Mom subscribes to tech newsletters and has Google alerts set up for your name. They're following your career more closely than they followed mine." Learning about their surveillance felt invasive and manipulative. They'd spent years pretending I didn't exist while secretly monitoring my achievements. The contradiction revealed a level of psychological complexity that disturbed me more than their initial rejection. Monica suggested we change our phone numbers and limit social media presence, but I refused to hide from people who no longer controlled my life. Instead, I doubled down on public visibility, accepting every speaking opportunity and interview request that aligned with our company's mission. The breakthrough moment came when Forbes reached out about featuring me on their cover. The photographer wanted to capture images that told the story of my journey from family rejection to business success. We settled on shots in our company's headquarters, surrounded by the team and technology that had transformed my life. "Tell me about the personal cost of building this company," the Forbes journalist asked during our 3-hour interview session. "What did you sacrifice to achieve this level of success?" I'd prepared for questions about business strategy and market competition, but her focus on personal sacrifice caught me off guard. How could I explain that family rejection had been both the most painful and most motivating experience of my life? I lost my family before I built my company, I said carefully. But that loss taught me to choose people who believe in my dreams rather than people who share my DNA. Sometimes the family you create is stronger than the family you inherit. The article titled "The Abandoned Daughter Who Built an AI Empire" was published 6 months later, featuring my photo on the cover and a comprehensive exploration of both our technology and my personal journey. The piece went viral, immediately shared across social media platforms, and discussed on technology podcasts worldwide. But the article's impact extended far beyond professional recognition. Within hours of publication, my phone began buzzing with messages from high school classmates, college friends, and extended family members I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone wanted to reconnect with the girl they'd assumed was dead. The most shocking message came from my high school best friend, Amanda Peterson. "Kate, I cannot believe your parents told us you died in a car accident. I grieved for you. I visited what I thought was your grave. How could they lie about something so horrible?" Reading Amanda's message while sitting in my corner office, watching the San Francisco fog roll across the bay, I finally understood the full scope of my parents' deception. They hadn't just disowned me privately, they'd created an elaborate fiction that let them avoid explaining their daughter's unconventional career choice to their conservative social circle. The realization hit me like a physical blow. For 8 years, people who'd cared about me had believed I was dead. Friends had mourned a fictional car accident while I built a real life 3,000 miles away. The cruelty of their lie exceeded anything I'd imagined possible. But understanding their deception also crystallized my response. They'd tried to erase me to protect their reputation. Now my success was making their lies impossible to maintain. Every article about our company, every speaking engagement, every business milestone created more evidence that their supposedly dead daughter was very much alive and thriving. The Forbes cover story represented more than professional recognition. It was proof that authentic success built on genuine relationships and honest work would always triumph over artificial narratives designed to protect fragile egos. My parents had tried to control my story by ending it. Instead, I'd written a new chapter they couldn't edit or influence. 3 days after the Forbes issue hit newsstands, my phone buzzed with a text from the number I'd blocked and unblocked dozens of times over the years. My mother's contact information unchanged after 8 years of silence. "Family Christmas party at 7:30 p.m. We have something important to discuss." As I stared at those words, I realized the next chapter of our story was about to begin. But this time, I'd be writing it on my own terms. The Forbes cover story created a media earthquake that extended far beyond Silicon Valley's tech bubble. Within 24 hours of publication, the article had been shared over 100,000 times across social media platforms. The headline, "The Abandoned Daughter Who Built an AI Empire," resonated with readers who understood family conflict and professional ambition. Standing in our office break room watching my team celebrate our national recognition with champagne and congratulatory speeches, I felt simultaneously triumphant and vulnerable. Sarah raised her glass to toast our achievement, but I couldn't shake the feeling that increased visibility would bring complications I hadn't anticipated. "Kate, this changes everything," James announced, scrolling through Twitter mentions on his phone. "Venture capital firms are calling about acquisition opportunities. Major corporations want partnerships. 3 different talk show producers have reached out about booking you as a guest." The immediate business impact was staggering. Our company valuation jumped to $120 million as investors recognized the market potential of our AI platform. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon all submitted preliminary acquisition offers that would have made every employee financially independent for life. But the personal impact felt more complex. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from people I'd lost touch with years earlier. High school classmates wanted to reconnect. College professors expressed pride in my achievements. Former colleagues from my brief stint in retail jobs marveled at my transformation. The most emotionally charged responses came from my extended family. Cousin Amanda called sobbing, apologizing for believing my parents' death fiction. Uncle Martin sent a lengthy email expressing shame about not questioning their story more thoroughly. Aunt Jennifer wrote about how proud she was of my success and how angry she felt about being deceived. "Kate, I have to ask," Amanda said during a tearful phone conversation from Connecticut. "Did you know we held a memorial service your parents organized everything? There were flowers and speeches about what a wonderful daughter you'd been. People donated money to a scholarship fund in your memory." Learning about the memorial service felt like being punched in the stomach. I'd imagined my parents simply telling people I'd moved away or that we'd had a disagreement. The elaborate fiction of my death, complete with flowers and charitable donations, exceeded every boundary of decency I thought existed. "They kept the scholarship money." Amanda continued, her voice breaking. "When people asked about dispersing funds to deserving students, your mom said the scholarship was still in development. Now I understand why." The financial implications of their deception added another layer of betrayal. My parents had not only lied about my death, but profited from people's sympathy and generosity. The discovery made my stomach turn with disgust at their calculating cruelty. Monica found me crying in our Marin County kitchen that evening, holding my phone and staring at photographs Amanda had sent from the memorial service. Seeing flowers arranged around my high school graduation photo, while knowing my parents were simultaneously monitoring my career online, created a surreal cognitive dissonance. "They're sick," Monica said, simply wrapping her arms around me while I processed the emotional impact. "Normal people don't fake their daughter's death for social convenience. This isn't about you not meeting their expectations. This is about them being fundamentally broken." Her words provided clarity I'd been struggling to find. For years, I'd wondered if I could have handled our final confrontation differently, if there had been some way to maintain family relationships while pursuing my dreams. But people capable of faking a memorial service weren't people who could be reasoned with or accommodated. The media attention intensified as news outlets picked up elements of my story that hadn't been included in the original Forbes article. A Connecticut local newspaper ran an investigation titled "The Living Dead Local Family's Elaborate Deception Exposed." The piece interviewed neighbors and family friends who expressed shock at learning about the fictional death. "We sent casseroles," one neighbor told the reporter. "We attended the service. We've been checking on Linda for years, thinking she was grieving her dead daughter. To learn it was all lies is deeply disturbing." My parents' social circle began unraveling as people realized they'd been manipulated for nearly a decade. Country club friends stopped including them in social events. Charity organizations where my mother had held board positions began questioning her integrity. My father's remaining business relationships suffered as clients associated his name with dishonesty. Timothy's communications became more frequent and increasingly desperate. His girlfriend, Jessica, had apparently been assigned to research my personal life and business relationships, gathering information for purposes I could only imagine were manipulative. "They're planning something," Timothy warned in an encrypted message. "Mom has been meeting with lawyers about whether they have any legal claim to your company's success. Dad thinks because they paid for your college education, they're entitled to some financial benefit from your achievements." The legal research revelation crystallized my understanding of their true motivations. This wasn't about family reconciliation or missed relationships. They were exploring ways to profit from the success they'd once dismissed as worthless fantasy. I immediately scheduled meetings with our corporate attorneys to ensure my business assets were protected from any potential family claims. The lawyers assured me that no legal connection existed between my parents' educational support and my independent business achievements, but they recommended documenting the timeline of family rejection and business development. "Your parents severed all legal and financial ties when they disowned you," our lead attorney explained during an emergency consultation. "They have no more claim to your business success than complete strangers would. But we should prepare for the possibility they might attempt frivolous litigation for publicity or settlement purposes." The strategic nature of their legal research confirmed what I'd begun to suspect: my parents weren't grieving a lost relationship or hoping for genuine reconciliation. They were calculating how to extract maximum benefit from acknowledging my existence. That understanding transformed my emotional response from hurt to cold anger. I'd spent years wondering if I could have preserved family relationships while building my career. Now I realized they'd never seen me as a daughter worth loving unconditionally, only as an asset worth controlling or exploiting. The Forbes article continued generating coverage across multiple media platforms. CNN featured a segment about family rejection and entrepreneurial motivation. The Wall Street Journal published an analysis of family dynamics in high-pressure business environments. Harvard Business Review commissioned an article about leadership development through adversity. Each piece of coverage increased my visibility while simultaneously exposing my parents' deception to larger audiences. People who'd never heard of our AI platform learned about the family that had faked their daughter's death to avoid social embarrassment. The most significant development came when a private investigator approached Monica outside her favorite coffee shop in Mill Valley. The man introduced himself as working for a client interested in learning more about my personal and financial circumstances. He asked specific questions about your relationship, your daily routines, and your business finances. Monica reported during an emergency dinner conversation. I told him nothing and left immediately. But Kate, this means they're actively investigating you. Learning about the private investigator confirmed that whatever my parents were planning involved more than casual curiosity about my success. They were gathering intelligence for some purpose that required professional assistance. I hired our own security consultant to sweep our home and offices for surveillance equipment and to monitor for additional investigative activity. The consultant found nothing immediately threatening, but recommended increased personal security precautions. Your parents have crossed legal boundaries, the security expert warned. Having you investigated without justification could constitute harassment. We should document everything in case you need to pursue legal remedies. But I didn't want legal remedies. I wanted something more satisfying: the opportunity to confront them directly and expose their manipulation in front of people they deceived for years. The opportunity came 3 days later with my mother's text message about Christmas dinner. As I stared at those words, I realized she'd just provided exactly what I needed: a chance to face them on my own terms, with my own support system, and with complete control over how our story would finally end. This time when they tried to manipulate me, I'd be ready. And this time, I wouldn't be arriving alone. I studied my mother's text message for the 100th time, analyzing every word choice and punctuation mark like a code that might reveal her true intentions. Family Christmas party at 7:30 p.m. We have something important to discuss. The formal tone, the assumption that I'd attend without question, the mysterious reference to important business. Everything about the message felt calculated and manipulative. Monica found me pacing our kitchen at midnight, still clutching my phone and running through possible scenarios. "They're planning something elaborate," I said, showing her the message. "This isn't just about family reconciliation. The timing right after the Forbes article, the mention of something important to discuss. They have an agenda." Sarah arrived within an hour of my emergency call, bringing her laptop and a pot of coffee strong enough to power our servers. The three of us gathered around our dining room table like generals planning a military campaign, which in many ways we were. "Let's think strategically." Sarah suggested opening a new document on her computer. What do we know about their current situation? What resources do they have? What outcomes could they possibly want from this meeting? Timothy's secret communications had provided crucial intelligence about their deteriorating circumstances. My father's banking career had ended in disgrace following the federal investigation. They'd lost most of my grandfather's real estate portfolio through poor investment decisions and mounting legal bills. The mansion where I'd grown up was listed for sale with no interested buyers. "They're desperate," Monica observed, reviewing the timeline of their financial collapse. People in desperate situations make risky decisions. This Christmas gathering isn't about family healing, it's about money. But Timothy's most recent warning revealed something more disturbing than financial motivation. My parents had hired a social media monitoring company to track my professional activities for over 2 years. They knew details about our business partnerships, our client relationships, and our growth projections that weren't public information. How did they get access to non-public business details? Sarah wondered aloud, scrolling through Timothy's warnings about their surveillance activities. Unless they're getting information from someone with inside access to industry networks. The possibility that they'd cultivated sources within Silicon Valley's business community added a new dimension to their manipulation. They weren't just monitoring my success from afar. They were actively gathering intelligence for purposes I was only beginning to understand. I called our corporate attorneys the next morning to discuss legal protections for our meeting. The lawyers recommended recording devices and witnesses to document any inappropriate requests or threats. They also prepared restraining order paperwork in case the situation escalated beyond civil conversation. Your parents have already demonstrated willingness to deceive people for financial gain, our lead attorney reminded me. Don't underestimate their ability to manipulate this reunion for publicity or business advantage. Monica suggested bringing Sarah as both moral support and professional witness to any business discussions. If they're planning to involve your company in whatever scheme they've developed, you need someone there who understands our technology and legal structure. The 3-day drive from San Francisco to Connecticut gave us time to prepare for multiple scenarios. We packed recording equipment, legal documents protecting my business assets, and contact information for local attorneys in case emergency legal intervention became necessary. Remember, Monica said as we crossed into Connecticut, you're not the powerless 24-year-old who left home with nothing. You're a successful entrepreneur with resources and allies. They can't control this situation the way they controlled your childhood. My childhood neighborhood looked exactly the same as we drove through tree-lined streets, past massive colonial houses with perfectly manicured lawns. The familiarity felt both comforting and claustrophobic, like stepping into a museum exhibit of my former life. The family mansion sat on 3 acres at the end of a circular driveway, its Georgian facade imposing against the December sky. But something felt different as we parked among a collection of expensive cars I didn't recognize. Too many vehicles for a simple family dinner, and several had license plates from other states. Kate, Sarah whispered, pointing toward the front windows. There are professional lights set up in the living room. And is that a photographer? Through the sheer curtains, we could see elaborate lighting equipment and what appeared to be a camera crew setting up in spaces I remembered from childhood holiday celebrations. My parents hadn't just invited family to this reunion. They'd turned it into a media event. Timothy emerged from a side door and jogged toward our car before we could fully process the implications of what we were seeing. His appearance shocked me. He'd lost weight and looked older than his 27 years, with circles under his eyes and a nervous energy that made him seem constantly ready to flee. "Kate, thank God you came," he said breathlessly, glancing back toward the house. "I need to warn you about what's happening in there. This isn't just a family dinner." According to Timothy, our parents had spent weeks planning an elaborate reunion event designed to rewrite the narrative of my success. They'd invited extended family members, local business leaders, and several venture capitalists from New York, whom they'd somehow convinced to attend a family investment opportunity. "They're planning to present you as their supported entrepreneur daughter," Timothy explained in hushed tones. "They've prepared talking points about how they provided foundational guidance for your success. Mom has been practicing speeches about family business values and generational wealth building." The revelation hit me like ice water. They weren't just hoping to reconcile for emotional reasons or even to benefit financially from my success. They were staging an elaborate performance designed to reposition themselves as integral to my achievements. "There's more." Timothy continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. They've prepared investment presentation materials suggesting family partnership opportunities for your company expansion. They want to present themselves as business advisors worthy of equity stakes. Monica and Sarah exchanged glances that conveyed both outrage and determination. We'd prepared for manipulation and even attempted financial exploitation, but we'd underestimated the sophistication and audacity of their scheme. Who's inside? I asked Timothy, needing to understand the full scope of what we were walking into. About 40 people. Extended family, some neighbors, 3 venture capitalists from Manhattan, a photographer from the local newspaper, and Jessica's older brother who works for a public relations firm in Hartford. The guest list revealed the true purpose of this reunion. My parents had assembled an audience of potential business partners, community leaders, and media representatives to witness their fictional reconciliation with their supposedly supported daughter. But Timothy had one more warning that changed everything. Kate, I overheard Mom on the phone yesterday with someone called Harrison and Associates. They're lawyers specializing in intellectual property and family business law. I think they're planning to claim some legal connection to your company's success. Standing in the driveway of my childhood home, surrounded by expensive cars belonging to strangers who'd come to witness my parents' elaborate deception, I made a decision that would define how this story ended. I wouldn't just attend their performance, I would give them a show they'd never forget. But first I had a phone call to make to our attorneys in California, because the game my parents wanted to play required rules they weren't expecting. Walking through the front door of my childhood home felt like entering a movie set designed to recreate my memories. The foyer gleamed with fresh flowers and holiday decorations, but the warm family atmosphere was undermined by professional photography equipment and the nervous energy of people playing predetermined roles. I moved through the crowd with Monica and Sarah flanking me like bodyguards taking in the scene my parents had orchestrated. Extended family members I hadn't seen in years looked uncomfortable, clearly unsure about their participation in whatever drama was about to unfold. The venture capitalists stood near the fireplace reviewing what appeared to be business documents while sipping expensive wine. My mother appeared first, crossing the living room with arms outstretched and tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. "Catherine, my darling girl, you're finally home." Her embrace felt rehearsed, performed for the cameras rather than motivated by genuine emotion. The photographer captured every moment of our reunion while guests watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to discomfort. I played along with the performance, hugging my mother while mentally recording every detail of their elaborate staging. "We've missed you so much," my father said, joining our embrace with perfectly timed emotion. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding, sweetheart. We're so sorry for the confusion about your career choices. We've always been proud of your success." The word misunderstanding hit me like a slap. 8 years of complete silence, a fictional memorial service and active surveillance of my career reduced to a simple misunderstanding that could be resolved with holiday hugs and professional photography. But I smiled and accepted their performance, waiting for the right moment to reveal that I understood exactly what they were trying to accomplish. The venture capitalists were introduced as family friends, interested in learning about my company's growth trajectory. Their questions seemed casual but revealed detailed knowledge about our client base, revenue projections, and expansion plans that shouldn't have been publicly available. "Your parents have been telling us fascinating stories about your journey." One investor said, consulting notes that looked suspiciously like a prepared script. "They're so proud of the foundational guidance they provided during your early development." I listened politely as my parents delivered rehearsed speeches about family business values and their commitment to supporting entrepreneurial ventures. They described my childhood interest in computers as evidence of their early encouragement and spoke about my education as their investment in my future success. The Martinez family has always believed in taking calculated risks, my father announced to the gathered crowd. When Catherine wanted to explore technology ventures, we encouraged her unconventional thinking while providing the stability she needed to pursue her dreams. Every word was a carefully crafted lie designed to reposition their rejection as support and their absence as strategic guidance. I watched Timothy's face during their presentation, noting his visible discomfort with their fictional narrative. Cousin Amanda approached me during a brief lull in the formal presentations, speaking quietly while others focused on my parents' performance. "Kate, I need you to know that we had no idea this was going to happen. Most of us thought we were coming to a simple family reunion. The business presentation materials were sprung on us this afternoon." Her words confirmed what I'd suspected: my parents had manipulated even their supportive family members into participating in their elaborate scheme. They'd used people's genuine desire for family healing to create an audience for their rebranding performance. But the most revealing moment came when my mother presented a prepared investment proposal to the venture capitalists, suggesting that my company would benefit from family advisory board participation and generational wealth management expertise. The document included suggested equity stakes for my parents as compensation for their foundational contributions to my success. Catherine's achievements reflect the values and business acumen she learned in this house, my mother told the potential investors. Family partnership opportunities represent natural evolution for a company built on Martinez family principles. I'd heard enough. Standing in the center of the living room where I'd once opened Christmas presents and celebrated childhood achievements, I decided it was time to end their performance with some truth. "That's a beautiful story, Mom," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "But I'm curious about one thing. Could you explain to our guests how you supported my entrepreneurial journey during the 8 years when you told everyone I was dead?" The silence that followed was deafening. The photographer stopped shooting. The venture capitalists looked confused. Extended family members began murmuring among themselves as they processed what I'd just revealed. "I think there's been some confusion," my father attempted, but I continued before he could develop momentum. "No confusion at all, Dad. Amanda, could you tell our guests about the memorial service you attended for me 3 years ago? The one with flowers and charitable donations. I'd love to hear about how my loving, supportive parents organized that event." Amanda's face went pale, but she found her voice. "Kate's right. Robert and Linda told us she died in a car accident. We attended a funeral service. People donated money to a scholarship fund in her memory." The venture capitalists began looking toward the door as they realized they'd been brought to Connecticut under false pretenses. Extended family members started demanding explanations from my parents, whose carefully orchestrated reunion was collapsing into chaos. But I wasn't finished. Sarah stepped forward with her laptop, ready to provide documentation of our parents' surveillance and legal research activities. I also need to address the suggestion that my parents provided foundational guidance for my company. I announced, my voice carrying clearly through the now silent room. "Sarah, could you share the timeline of our business development with our guests?" Sarah opened her laptop and began reading from our carefully prepared presentation. Kate's company was founded 18 months after her parents disowned her for refusing to attend law school. The initial funding came entirely from Kate's personal savings and small business loans. No family financial support was provided at any point during business development. She continued with details about our independent growth, the employees we'd hired without family connections, and the investors who'd supported us based on our technology rather than family relationships. Every fact contradicted the narrative my parents had spent weeks crafting. Furthermore, Sarah added, "We have documentation showing that Kate's parents hired a social media monitoring company to track her professional activities without her knowledge or consent. We also have evidence that they've been meeting with lawyers to explore potential legal claims against Kate's business assets." The room erupted in shocked conversations as extended family members realized the depth of my parents' deception and manipulation. The venture capitalists were already gathering their materials and heading toward the door, clearly wanting no association with people who'd built investment opportunities on lies. But I had one more revelation that would permanently end their ability to manipulate our family relationships. Finally, I said, pulling out my own prepared documents. I want to share something that might surprise everyone here. Timothy, would you like to tell our family how I've been supporting your medical school education for the past 3 years? Timothy's eyes widened in shock as he realized what I was about to reveal. I'd kept my financial support secret at his request, but their parents' behavior had made continued secrecy impossible. Kate has been funding my education through an anonymous scholarship program. Timothy admitted, his voice barely audible. She's been supporting me even though our parents forbade any contact. She's been more family to me than anyone else in this room. The revelation that I'd been secretly supporting family members who needed help while being publicly presented as the abandoned daughter who owed them support created a stunning contrast that no one in the room could ignore. My parents' faces showed a mixture of rage and panic as their carefully constructed performance crumbled completely. The venture capitalists had left. Extended family members were demanding explanations. The photographer had stopped documenting what was supposed to be a heartwarming reunion. "Kate, you don't understand the financial pressure we've been under," my mother attempted weakly. "I understand perfectly," I replied. "You've been under financial pressure because of your own poor decisions, and your response was to fake my death, monitor my success, and attempt to profit from achievements you once called worthless fantasies." Standing in that living room surrounded by the ruins of their manipulation, I felt something I hadn't experienced since leaving home 8 years earlier, complete closure with people who'd never deserved my love or loyalty. But there was one more surprise waiting for them, something that would ensure they could never attempt this kind of manipulation again. The silence in the living room felt electric as I prepared to deliver my final statement to the people who'd spent 8 years pretending I didn't exist. Extended family members sat frozen in their chairs, still processing the revelation that they'd been manipulated into attending what they thought was a genuine reconciliation, but was actually an elaborate financial scheme. I want everyone here to understand something. I began, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Building a successful company requires surrounding yourself with people who believe in your vision and support your growth. For the past 8 years, I've been blessed to work with partners like Sarah, who believed in our technology when it was just lines of code. I've been supported by mentors and investors who saw potential where others saw risk. And I've been loved by people like Monica who celebrate my successes and help me learn from my failures. I gestured toward my parents who stood near the now abandoned photographer's equipment, their faces reflecting a mixture of anger and desperation. But I've also learned to identify people who see relationships as transactions, who measure love by their ability to control outcomes, and who mistake manipulation for strategy. Sarah stepped forward with another folder from our carefully prepared documentation. Kate asked me to prepare a comprehensive timeline of her business development. She announced to the remaining guests, "I think it's important that everyone understand exactly how independent her success has been." She began reading details about our early struggles, the small apartment where we'd coded our first prototypes, the months of surviving on minimal budgets while building our client base. Every fact reinforced how completely separate our achievements were from any family influence or support. Kate's parents weren't just absent during this journey, Sarah continued. According to Timothy's communications, they were actively hoping she would fail so they could convince her to return to their preferred career path. Timothy nodded reluctantly, his loyalty finally shifting toward truth rather than family pressure. They talked about Kate's business as a phase that would end when she ran out of money. Dad used to say entrepreneurship was for people too weak to handle real careers. The extended family members who genuinely mourned my fictional death began expressing their outrage more vocally. Uncle Martin stood up from his chair near the fireplace, his face flushed with anger. "Robert, Linda, I cannot believe you let us grieve for 8 years while you knew perfectly well that Kate was alive and successful. We sent sympathy cards. We attended memorial services. We've been checking on you during holidays thinking you were bereaved parents." Aunt Jennifer joined the chorus of family condemnation. The scholarship fund was the worst part. People donated money thinking they were honoring Kate's memory, and you kept those funds while she was building a company that's now worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But I wasn't finished with my revelations. Monica stepped forward with legal documents our California attorneys had prepared during our drive across the country. I also want to address the suggestion that my parents deserve financial consideration for my business success. I continued. Our lawyers have prepared a comprehensive analysis of any potential claims they might have against my company assets. Monica began reading from the legal opinion which conclusively demonstrated that no relationship existed between my parents' educational support and my independent business achievements. The document also outlined their potential legal liability for the surveillance activities and false business representations they'd made to potential investors. Furthermore, I added, I want to clarify the true scope of family financial support that's been provided over the past 8 years. This was the moment I'd been building toward the revelation that would permanently shift the power dynamics in our family relationships. I'd spent years secretly supporting family members who needed help while allowing my parents to maintain their fiction that I was a selfish daughter who'd abandoned family responsibilities. Sarah, could you read the list of anonymous financial support I've provided to family members over the past 5 years? Sarah opened her laptop and began reading from records our accountants had prepared. Anonymous scholarship funding for Timothy's medical school education, $120,000. Emergency medical bill payment for Uncle Martin's cancer treatment, $45,000. Mortgage assistance for Aunt Jennifer during her divorce proceedings, $30,000. Educational fund contributions for various family members' children, $75,000. The numbers created stunned silence as family members realized I'd been quietly supporting people who needed help while being portrayed as the selfish daughter who'd abandoned family values for personal ambition. Timothy, I said gently, could you confirm for our family that these payments came with no strings attached and no requirement that you maintain contact with me? Timothy nodded, tears streaming down his face. Kate never asked me to choose between her support and my relationship with our parents. She just made sure I could afford medical school when our parents couldn't help financially. The contrast between my quiet generosity and my parents' elaborate manipulation scheme created a stark moral clarity that no one in the room could ignore. I'd been building bridges while they'd been burning them, supporting family members while they'd been exploiting family relationships. My father made one final desperate attempt to regain control of the narrative. Catherine, you don't understand the social pressure we faced when you left. Our friends expected explanations. The memorial service was a mistake, but we were protecting family privacy. You were protecting your own egos, I replied firmly, and you've been actively working to profit from my success while maintaining the fiction that you supported my career. This Christmas gathering wasn't about family reconciliation. It was about positioning yourselves to benefit financially from achievements you once called worthless. Monica presented the final piece of documentation, a restraining order our attorneys had prepared to prevent future harassment or attempted business interference. Kate's legal team has prepared protective measures to ensure that no family members can interfere with her business operations or make false claims about their involvement in her company's success, Monica announced. These documents will be filed immediately if any future manipulation or contact violations occur. But despite the legal protections and public exposure of their behavior, I wanted to end our relationship on terms that reflected my values rather than their manipulation tactics. I want everyone to understand that I don't hate my parents, I said, looking directly at Robert and Linda. I pity people who are so insecure about their own achievements that they need to steal credit for their daughter's success. I feel sad for people who are so afraid of unconventional choices that they'd rather fake a death than admit their child chose a different path. The room remained silent as I delivered my final words to people who'd shaped my childhood but had no claim on my future. but I refuse to allow their insecurity and manipulation to diminish the joy I've found in building something meaningful with people who choose to support rather than control each other. I turned toward the family members who'd been deceived by my parents' lies. For those of you who genuinely missed me and mourned my supposed death, I want you to know that my door is always open for authentic relationships built on honesty rather than obligation. Timothy stepped forward, first crossing the room to embrace me with tears streaming down his face. "Kate, I'm so sorry I didn't defend you 8 years ago. I was young and scared, but that's no excuse. You've been more family to me than anyone else, and I want to earn the right to call you my sister." Cousin Amanda joined us, followed by Uncle Martin and Aunt Jennifer. One by one, family members who'd been manipulated by my parents' lies approached to express their genuine desire for real relationships moving forward. As we prepared to leave the mansion where I'd grown up, I felt a sense of peace I'd been seeking for 8 years. Justice hadn't required revenge or cruelty. It had simply required truth and the courage to establish healthy boundaries with people who'd proven themselves unworthy of unlimited access to my life. Walking toward our car with Monica and Sarah beside me and Timothy following close behind, I realized that family wasn't about shared DNA or childhood memories. Family was about people who celebrated your dreams rather than trying to control them, who supported your growth rather than demanding you shrink to fit their expectations. 3 months later, I stood before an audience of 2,000 female entrepreneurs at the largest women's business conference in the country, sharing the story of building success after family rejection. The response was overwhelming as audience members shared their own experiences of choosing authenticity over approval. Success built on other people's lies will always crumble, I told the audience as my presentation concluded, but success built on your own truth, supported by people who believe in your vision, creates foundation strong enough to weather any storm. Monica and I were married 6 months later in a ceremony attended by our chosen family, Sarah and her partner Timothy, and his girlfriend, the extended family members who'd chosen truth over manipulation, and the incredible team that had helped us build our company into something that mattered. My parents weren't invited, and I felt no sadness about their absence. They'd chosen to end our relationship 8 years earlier when they decided their comfort was more important than their daughter's dreams. I'd simply honored their choice while building something better with people who understood that love means supporting rather than controlling the people you care about. The company continued growing beyond anything I'd imagined when I first left home with nothing but determination and a laptop. We expanded internationally developed new AI applications that transformed entire industries and created hundreds of jobs for brilliant people who shared our vision of technology that enhances rather than replaces human connection. But the greatest success was the peace I'd found in understanding that some relationships aren't worth preserving when they require you to diminish yourself to make other people comfortable. Family can be the people who raised you, but it can also be the people who choose to love and support the person you become. As I write this story sitting in the home office of our Marin County house, while Monica tends her garden and Sarah texts about our latest client success, I want to ask you something important. Have you ever had to choose between other people's expectations and your own dreams? How did you find the courage to choose authenticity over approval? Your experiences matter, and I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like this video to help it reach other people who might need to hear about choosing their own path over other people's limitations. Subscribe to our channel for more stories about overcoming family challenges and building success on your own terms. And share this with anyone you know who's struggling to balance family expectations with personal dreams. Thank you for listening to my journey and for being part of a community that believes in supporting each other's authentic success. Remember that your worth isn't determined by other people's approval, and your dreams matter regardless of who supports or opposes them. Until next time, keep building the life that makes you proud to be exactly who you are.